Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when it's fine. This is installment 7 on black jobs and immigration. And in installment 6, I talked about, will Negroes be able to keep their jobs once the white Europeans come back from overseas from World War One looking for work? And see, what you don't pay attention to, you look at the years when you had Red Summer, you look at when Tulsa burned down, you look at all of these riots and everything that were going on. Look at the years when these things took place. 1917, 1919, 1921. Black men and women had built great success and wealth while white men were overseas fighting the war. And white men came back and realized they could not compete with what these black men had been doing. And that's one of the major reasons they started destroying all of our very successful communities. Y'all don't understand nothing. See, YouTube minimizes me, Facebook minimizes me, my black brothers and sisters minimize me. They think I'm crazy. And I probably am. But I share information that's beneficial to us if we just listen. And sadly, when the system minimizes a black voice, as black people, we believe the system is minimizing a voice that's saying the wrong thing. I just don't get it. But y'all got to understand, go back and look at all them race riots and see what years they happened. There were some others scattered out, but look at where the great majority of them, the time frame they were focused on. How many communities were destroyed in Red Summer? Tulsa was our crowning achievement. And after Tulsa happened, how many happened after that? Because Tulsa was our crown and glory. The rest of them were leading up to that. But none of them had success other than Negro Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina. But even Negro Wall Street in North Carolina didn't have the wealth that they had in Tulsa. And see, another thing they won't tell y'all is the reason they got mad at them black folks too, because they had built their homes and businesses on top of a whole bunch of oil. And they wanted that oil. Let's see, I'm just here to talk about black jobs and immigration. But in the Chicago Defender in the year 1921, this was written in there. The restrictions recently placed upon immigration to these shores ought to help us if they do not help anybody else. The restrictions placed upon immigration. The restrictions placed on immigration. The war, of course, showed us just how keen a competitor cheap European labor had been for the less skilled among us and the skilled alike. If it had not been for the harsh competition of the Southern European brought here by American capital to perform these tasks which the American white man had outgrown, we would have been a much larger factor in industry than we are today. Until the war, we figured chiefly as stripe bearers in the more basic industries and not at all in the more technical branches of manufacturing and producing concerns. And then there was another magazine, The Messenger, that was based out of New York. And this was over in 1925. And let me find that right quick. Okay, this is what it said in that piece. Let no Negro fail in his duty of advancing the cause of Negro labor without let or hindrance. Immigration from Europe has been materially cut, which means that the yearly supply of labor is much less than it formerly was. This gives the organized workers an advantage, greater bargaining power by virtue of this limited supply. It also gives the Negro worker a strategic position. It gives him power to exact a higher wage on the one hand, and to compel organized labor to let down the bars of discrimination against him on the other. Thus, it benefits him in two ways. See, black folks, y'all don't understand. When immigrants come over, and do jobs cheaper than what you're willing to work for, they're pricing you out of that particular job. I don't know what it's going to take to get y'all to understand that. And once they price you out of that job, we had this mentality, once we start earning a certain amount of money, our ego won't let us go back if we're struggling and work for something less. I've been in that predicament where I was making management salary in retail, and then they came in one day and told us the company had been sold and we didn't have anywhere to go. And I took a job making about the same amount of money I was making when I was a college student. Nobody knew. My wife and I wasn't even married at the time, but she was the only one that knew what type of money I was making. Well, wasn't making. But you know what I did? When they told me that, I took my money and I paid up. I paid up on some of my bills, just in case I couldn't find a decent job for a period of time. And it took me 5 months to find another decent job. But I was okay because my bills were paid up. And so you got to understand, when immigrants come in, where you might want to do this job for $25 an hour, the immigrant will come in and they'll say, I'll do it for $15. So now you've been priced out of a job. But we don't think about that stuff. There was a magazine, well, I ain't gonna say a magazine, that was a journal called Opportunity, that was actually published by the Urban League, National Urban League. And in 1926, I pulled this from that. And it said, when the immigration legislation of 1921 and 1924 restricted the influx of European workers, when it was expected that one effect would be the increased importance of American-born labor, the World War had accidentally revealed to them, black workers, the enormous pressure of yearly European immigration against their migration from the South to the industrial centers of the North. And this relationship has carried through the immigration legislation with a logic which seems to bind their industrial failure to the policy of restriction. The census of 1920 shows a shift of 371,229 Negroes from agricultural pursuits to industry. What is most evident is that the gaps made by the reduction in immigrant labor have forced a demand for Negro labor, despite theories regarding Negro labor not infrequently encountered among certain employers and some unions, which hold that they are neither needed nor desired.